Hey there, Jenn Dize here for Status Coup. We are fresh off of Bernie Sanders' wins in Iowa and New Hampshire, and Nevada is next. It is not looking like it's going to be a smooth ride. There are a lot of weird things going on that I'm going to tell you about. Now, this is not a report where I have all of the answers. Why is that? Because nobody has all of the answers. Just like we saw in Iowa, the Nevada state party is being very shady and not forthcoming with exactly what's going to happen with these caucuses. It is a mess. I would use other words, but I don't want this video to get demonetized. So let's dive right into it and let's see what you think about all this. So first of all, we have a Nevada for Bernie volunteer organizer, Jessica Grace, and she tweeted, Nevada Caucus update, probably a huge mess. No response on how early votes will be tabulated or sent to precincts on caucus day. No live testing of iPad tool, in quotes. No response to journalists by leading Nevada Dems. No one seems to know how the caucus is going to work. Voting starts in 3 days. Just absorb those things for a hot second here. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Voting, early voting, starts in 3 days. And you'll notice that she put the word tool, iPad tool, in air quotes. That's because they're abandoning their original plan of using Shadow, the famous Shadow company who developed the disastrous app for Iowa. Nevada was going to use 2 apps developed by Shadow. They abandoned those plans, and now they're saying they're going to use iPad-based tools, not apps. They're very clear that it's different. How are they different? They're not clear at all on that. So that tweet was just to give you a preview. Let's get in further here. It gets pretty crazy. Here we have a Vox Report. What we know and don't know about the Nevada Caucus tool, again with the air quotes. Here we go again. Fresh off the unmitigated and still unfolding disaster that was the Iowa Democratic caucuses, Nevada will soon kick off caucuses of its own. After understandably scrapping its plans to use an app made by Shadow Inc., the company behind Iowa's fated caucus app, the Nevada State Democratic Party is now scrambling to come up with a solution before the early voting period begins on February 15th. And as I record this, it's February 12th. So not so much time. Exactly what the solution might be remains a mystery to the greater public. Multiple reports say the party is planning to use what it calls an iPad tool, which the party told volunteers is not an app, despite its app-like properties. But the state party has yet to confirm this or much of anything else. Nevada's secrecy is not a good sign, given how tight-lipped its Iowa predecessors were. So they go into, I'm not going to read absolutely every detail of this, but this is how Nevada's Democratic caucuses work. The caucus process differs depending on the state that does them. Nevada has been the third in the country to hold its Democratic nominating contest since 2008. So this year, the caucus will be held on February 22nd, with early voting taking place February 15th through 18th. Again, starting just 3 days from now. This is the first time the caucus has had early voting, allowing registered Democrats to make their choice in person at any early voting location in their county. So I want to comment on this early voting thing. I happen to think early voting is a good thing in general. I often have voted early whenever I live in Maryland. So as soon as it's available, I rush to go vote. I think it's good. The issue here is nobody knows what the heck is happening. You can't implement something new like early voting without having all your ducks in a row. So this could be a disaster on top of other disasters. So let's see here. They talk again about the caucus process. So on February 22nd, this is after early voting is over. This is the regular caucus day. Caucus goers will report to their precinct and stand on the side of the room designated for the candidate they prefer. If a candidate doesn't get a certain threshold of support, typically 15%, they'll be considered non-viable and then they realign. This is the same sort of thing that happened in Iowa. There will be paper ballot backups. which, as we saw in Iowa, should come in handy. Vox notes that they come in handy, but what Vox does not mention is that even though we have these paper records, who knows if those paper records are correct? Status Coup reported before the Iowa caucuses that their app was probably going to be a disaster. We were right on that. And everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people said to us, oh, but they're going to have paper backups. The app doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter because there were so many errors on the worksheets, calculating errors, just errors out the wazoo. It does matter. So even though we have paper backups in Nevada here as well, who knows if they're going to be correct? And there's a lot of weird math involved in this. So don't think just because there are paper backups that means all is going to be well. So get this. Once that's all figured out, voters pick delegates to represent their selection at conventions. In the event of a tie, the delegate will be decided by drawing of playing cards. Let me repeat that. The delegate will be decided by a drawing of playing cards. Yes, that's right. In Vegas fashion, whichever group picks the highest card wins the delegate. So democratic. I mean, what? What are they thinking? If the groups pick the same card, the winner is chosen according to the card's suit. So we actually have here in the memo, this is the NV Dems caucus memo. So here's where they talk about the tiebreakers. When awarding delegates, a presidential preference group with caucus math results of 0.5 and above is rounded up. Similarly, a preference group with results 0.5 is rounded down. Blah, blah, blah. So in these very limited circumstances where two or more presidential preference groups are tied for the loss or gain of a delegate, groups must each draw a single card from a deck of cards to break a tie. The high card determines the winner, and aces are high. Tiebreaker scenarios should always be determined after the completion of caucus math. Tiebreakers are determined by referring to the decimal, not the number of individuals in any given preference group. The Nevada State Democratic Party is providing an unopened deck of cards to all precinct locations. How nice of them. The deck of cards should be shuffled by a precinct chair or site lead at least 7 times before use, and all extra cards, jokers, and directional cards should be removed. In evaluating the high card amongst cards of the same rank, the card suit will control the outcome, from highest to lowest, spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs. The results of the tiebreaker, as well as which group pulled what particular card, shall be recorded and reported to the Nevada State Democratic Party. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. On caucus day, the Nevada State Democratic Party will have a hotline for all precinct chairs if they have questions about the game of chance process. So in Iowa, we have coin flips, which is obviously what, why, ridiculous. In Nevada, because how cute. It's a place of gambling, so how cute. In our democratic process, we're going to use just random pulling of cards, and whoever gets the highest card wins. We're not in kindergarten, guys. This is voting. These delegates matter. Which delegates go to which candidate matters a heck of a lot. How can we leave this up to what is literally titled a game of chance? That's not democracy. Oh, it just really, really gets me super fired up. It's crazy. Just why? Oh, okay. I'll move on, even though it's hard for me too, because it's so wild. So let's get back to some more weirdness. So this is the first year, 2020 is the first year to allow for early voting. So they hope that will increase voting, which is good. You know, you want to make this as democratic as possible. In order to caucus, people have to have transportation. They have to take time off from their jobs, potentially. They have to have childcare. So any chance that they have to vote at a different time, I believe, is inherently more democratic and better. But they don't seem to have all their ducks in a row once again. Let me get into this early voting thing before I move on. So this came out yesterday. Nevada Democrats to use scannable ballot for early voting. So this is specifically for early voting, and then I'll get back into caucus day. So Nevada Democrats will replace their app-based early voting process for the caucus with a scannable paper ballot. The first concrete details to emerge about the new process the party is designing in the wake of Iowa's problem-plagued contest last week. Under the new system, early voters, early voters will fill out paper ballots that will be scanned at the end of each day, like a Scantron. So if at school you remember marking off those bubble sheets and then they were fed into an electronic kind of system or calculator by your teacher, that's sort of what they're comparing it to. And these paper ballots will be linked to voters' unique Secretary of State ID numbers. So what's interesting about this is that these paper ballots are going to be scanned in and through the use of a check-in form via Google Forms. So they are actually using Google Forms as part of keeping track of all of this, which is the interesting part to come out of here. Let's see. Starting Saturday, voters will be able to show up to more than 80 locations, including community centers, colleges, on and on. Upon arrival, voters will check in with volunteers using a PDF voter roll preloaded onto party-purchased iPads that will be provided to early vote site leaders. Each iPad will have only the voter roll corresponding to the county in which the early voting site is located, since early votes must be cast in the same county where the voter is registered. So this is downloaded to the Books app. So if you have, an Apple device, they have the Books app there. So from there, early voters will be given a voter card filled out by a volunteer on site that will include their first name and other information. And voters who need to register will be able to do so on site. Early voters will be asked to enter the information on their voter card into a Google form on a party iPad, with the goal of helping the party streamline the process of connecting the ballot with each individual's unique Secretary of State ID. The Google form will also be used to track voters in near real time and to verify that no one has attempted to vote twice. An icon on the iPad will launch the Google form, which will be accessible through a URL. According to the party, there are a series of security mechanisms in place to ensure that the URL is only accessed by the appropriate individuals. At the end of each day, ballot boxes will be transported to the processing hubs monitored by the state party to be scanned and securely stored. According to the memo, a clear chain of custody outlined on the ballot box will be documented from the time it leaves the Nevada State Democratic Party's headquarters to the time it is dropped off at the hub. The party plans to update campaigns on who has voted early, but no early vote presidential preferences will be shared until the individual precinct caucuses on caucus day. No further details have been announced about the tool or calculator the party plans to preload onto its party-purchased iPads to allow precinct chairs to flow the early vote data into the caucus day process. Mounts in the memo said the party will continue to keep everyone updated as we have further information to share. So a couple things about this. I don't have a ton to say because we still don't have a ton of details. I want to know more details, and that's the problem with this. Google does know what it's doing. The use of Google Forms, as I've seen from the chatter online, is reassuring people a little bit about this early voting process. At the same time, how are they ensuring that it's a completely secure process? How are they ensuring that this is streamlined enough to work or integrated enough to work well? So Google Forms, good. It's not this random company Shadow that's developing this. It is not an app. It's Google Forms. But it's still concerning that there are not more details released on this. So they vote in 3 days. They early vote in 3 days. We should know absolutely everything. The people who are involved in this process should know even more than we know. They don't, and they're worried about it, as we saw from that initial tweet. So back to the rest of this here. I want to go over some quotes of some concerns that people have. So this AP article, after Iowa caucus problems, concerns grow over Nevada's plan. So again, they talk about the chaos from Iowa, which has everybody scared, of course. So volunteers who will be leading the February 22nd caucuses said key information had yet to be shared. So this is about actual caucus day. There has been no hands-on training with iPads being deployed to caucus sites on Election Day, nor opportunities to try out a new tool, those air quotes again, that will be loaded onto the iPads and used during the caucus process. And Jordan and I are actually speaking with one of the people who are being trained on this. We've seen parts of this training. It's true. They're not providing details. The training is incredibly thin. It seems like they don't have their act together, and that is incredibly concerning. And they're talking again about the early voting. So here we have Doug Jones, a University of Iowa computer scientist and expert on voting technology. So he is quoted by the AP as saying, "This just sounds dangerous. Like people are still improvising, this sounds just dangerous. Like people are still improvising and making up the rules as they go. How do they expect to get training done for all the people doing these caucuses?" And AP makes the point, Nevada is the first state where there's truly a diverse population. There's not a really diverse population in Iowa. There's not a really diverse population in New Hampshire. So Nevada is seen as kind of the first caucus or the first race here where there's some diversity, which means a lot for the races going forward, for the primaries going forward. So if this gets botched, it's not good. So Molly Forgy, a spokeswoman for the Nevada State Democratic Party, declined to respond to questions about how the reporting process will work. Of course she declined. She said, "We'll train our volunteers as soon as the process is rolled out," Forgy said Tuesday night. She added, "I think our confidence level is the same, still high." What? How on earth could your confidence level be high when you haven't trained your volunteers, the very people who will be implementing this process? Because you don't have your stuff figured out. And again, I would use stronger language if it wouldn't demonetize this video. It's absurd. Plan ahead. Get your act together. This is voting. This is democracy. And you are taking away the democratic process by being shady, by not having your act figured out. Okay. So AP actually, interestingly, brings up the fact that Russia interfered in the 2016 vote. Well, here we are interfering in our own elections, and certain people don't seem quite as bothered by that. The fact that if this were happening in a South American country or something, we would be like rushing in and taking over and toppling their dictator because their voting process is so screwed up and undemocratic. Yet here we are, America, can't do anything wrong, right? It's ridiculous. So as in Iowa, Nevada's caucuses are run by the state party and not state and local election officials. So again, that's just like Iowa, and the Iowa Democratic Party did not do a good job. So confidence level in Nevada's ability to do a good job is pretty low. So in training sessions in recent days, Nevada Democrats told precinct leaders they will be using an iPad they will receive the day of the caucuses. Seth Morrison, so this is the part that I really wanted you to see. Seth Morrison, a site leader who will oversee multiple precincts at a caucus site in the metro Las Vegas area, said he was told he would be trained on iPads when he picks them up a few days before the caucuses and would be responsible for showing precinct leaders how to use them. Wow. So the guy who is supposed to train people on how to use these hasn't gotten to use these iPads. There are no words. Truly. Let's see here. Caucus organizers said they thought the tool would be used to ultimately submit results electronically to the state party, but some were not certain. It also appeared the tool would contain information on early voting selections, but it was not known whether there would also be a paper record of the early votes at each precinct in case the iPad or tool failed. Morrison said he was told by party officials the tool had been professionally developed, but they would not tell him by whom, citing concerns the developer would be targeted by hackers. That was the same argument made by Iowa Democrats ahead of their caucuses, and this is something that Status Coup reported on ahead of time, that the Iowa Democratic Party was not giving journalists or anyone else any information on who had developed their app. Well, we later found out that there were a bunch of shady connections related to this app, that it was developed by Hillary people and people to judge people. And it was named Shadow. As I've said, if you're going to have a corruption app, can we not have the company be named Shadow? I mean, it's a little too on the nose. So same thing is happening over again. They will not tell us anything about the development here. They've been saying basically, don't worry, trust us, said Morrison. I've been hyperventilating for the last 5 days. So other people are expressing concern, and I want to reiterate that the Seth, the one who is hyperventilating because he doesn't have any information, not his fault. He is a site leader who will oversee multiple precincts at a caucus site in the Metro Las Vegas area. He will be trained on the iPads, and he will be responsible for training other people. And here he is hyperventilating because he has no information. What is going on here? This is concerning. This is bad. And I want to remind you, before I sign off, of what happened at the Nevada convention in 2016. So if you think, oh, you know, nothing bad will happen this time, they won't try to steal this from Bernie like they did in Iowa, I don't know. I mean, there's precedent for this. Remember the chair throwing debacle? Let's take a look. Did Sanders supporters throw chairs at Nevada Democratic Convention? So, a Las Vegas reporter's secondhand claim Bernie Sanders supporters threw chairs at a Nevada convention was widely reproduced by other news outlets. So, Snopes actually ended up rating this false. So, John Ralston is like the Vegas reporter. So he reported that Bernie Sanders supporters were throwing chairs at convention in order to paint these Bernie bros as bad, awful people. Well, you've seen in the news, they're still doing that. And they're going to continue to do that. But this became such a debacle at the convention. It was just widely reported that Bernie Sanders supporters were violent now because they were throwing chairs. This was debunked, but the media spin and the media impact was big at the time. So John Ralston, hey, Bernie bot chair throwing truthers, it happened. People saw it, including one journo who was there and reported it. So I actually got involved in 2016. I did not film this video, but I clipped it from, her name was Adrienne, I believe, and she was there. And so what actually happened, and proudly or not, my tweet made it on the Rachel Maddow show back then. But no chair throwing at the Nevada Democratic Convention. The guy picks the chair up, puts it down, and they hug it out. So let's see if this will play. Oh, of course, it's loading. But you'll see the guy does pick up the chair because he's frustrated because the convention descended into complete chaos. Oh, maybe I can open it here. But there was no violence, and in fact, it ended really nicely with this hugging it out. Oh, it looks like it's not going to play. Here we go.
Officially stolen. We had a formal motion on the
Of course, it won't show you the actual thing. Sorry about this amazing technology here. It turns out that reporting and producing your own show doesn't always go as planned. But I promise you, and you can find this tweet. I'll put it in the description. The guy literally picks the chair up and puts it down, and other Bernie people hug him because as you heard the woman yelling, the process was being stolen from Bernie people. And credit to Adrienne Ashley was the one who had filmed that video. So there's precedent for this, and they're gonna pull some stuff. I mean, I don't know to what extent, but they're going to pull some stuff. And remember, this is Harry Reid land, so we will keep reporting on this. There were shenanigans in Nevada in 2016. There will probably be shenanigans this time. I mean, I can't report that there will be, but it sure looks weird with this tool, this iPad tool, not an app, a tool. This early voting stuff that's not really thought out or planned out. It's not looking good. So we'll stay on this. Please support our reporting. Jordan will be on the ground in Nevada, just like he was in Iowa, just like he was in New Hampshire, with incredible reporting. Please look at our channel to find that stuff. He interviewed Michael Moore, Nina Turner, lots of different supporters. He got chased around by the Pete Buttigieg campaign. Our cameraman was assaulted. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Go check that out. But please join as a member. For $5 a month, every single member makes a huge difference. statuscoup.com/join. You will support us being on the ground so we can keep track of all of these shenanigans in real time. Jordan is actively talking to sources in Nevada. He will report for you every step of the way, but we need your help. If you're not a member, join for as low as $5 a month, statuscoup.com/join. You can also donate or support us at any amount via paypal.me/statuscoup. All right, I will be reporting more later. I will talk to you later. Keep your head up. Bye-bye.